Hi, good morning. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor. We're talking today about business and stuff. I tell you, last night was a cold night here in South Carolina. We got down to 58 degrees. Now, we're still kind of at the very end of summer and we're going into fall, but it was cold this morning. I got up taking my dog out and I tell you I froze my butt off. It was cold out there. I wasn't used to that. Especially it's usually around 70 degrees during the summertime at night and now we're down to 58 degrees. I think right now it says it's 58 degrees right now on my thermometer on my computer. Listen, I'm kind of fed up. I'm truly fed up. I'm exhaustingly fed up with where we stand at the moment with the economy. We keep hearing politicians come and say, "Oh, the economy is so great. It's wonderful. It's marvelous. We're creating all these jobs. We're doing all this stuff. Wages are going up," which is a lie. But here's the problem. We have a lot of economic problems still existing in the United States, especially with the government. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'm going to talk about McCarthy and his stupidity. So the U.S. now has a record 17.1 trillion in household debt. That means Americans are in debt. They have no more cash left. They have no more credit card left. They're done at the moment. We have a record 12.0 billion in mortgages. We have a record 1.6 trillion in auto loans, which are going into default, which are being repossessed at the moment. A record 1.6 trillion in student loans, a record 1.0 trillion in credit card debt. The average house payment is about to hit $3,000 a month for the first time in history. All as oil prices are up 40% in 3 months, mortgage rates hit 7.5%, and credit card rates are at a record 25%. Those of you using credit cards at the moment at 25%, you're absolutely fools. Borrowing more debt is not the solution to high inflation. This is unsustainable. It's just we are out of control at the moment because of the policies that have come out of the White House, the policies that Joe Biden, whoever is running this country, has gotten themselves into, has literally destroyed our economy. Now, McCarthy wants to, this is another thing that really upsets me. Okay, we had a October 1 deadline to put the spending bill in place. They've had all these months to work on it. They're not ready yet. So now they want to, excuse me, they want to put in a temporary one until October 31st so that they can negotiate more. They've had all this time to do something. The president has had time. The Congress has had time. Everybody has had time. But instead, what did they do? They went off on vacation. So now he wants to extend it to put in a little gap, a little temporary measure to fund it until October 31st. Now, he came out yesterday saying he wants to cut spending by 8%. I'm sorry, 8% isn't good enough. 8% isn't going to save us any money. Because as soon as you say 8%, all of a sudden a whole slew of more spending comes in. This is not working, Mr. Speaker. You're not addressing the issues. We've got too much staff. We've got over redundancy of people working on the same thing. You've got too much spending that's going into retirement programs that have you checked it lately? Is it solvent? Is there enough funding for that? In most states, it's not. So I'm assuming that in the federal government, it's not either. So if I were to speak to the speaker himself, you've got to do better. 8% isn't going to cut it. It just will not cut it. The 8% is just too low of a number. You have got to reduce your headcount. You have got to reduce your spending. You've got to reduce all of those grants and everything that you're giving away for free and cut it off, freeze it for 2 years, because that's what you're going to need through this inflationary time. Freeze it for 2 years, freeze hiring for 2 years. You can no longer go forward on this type of an economy. Government has this love of spending, and it can no longer go on. When you have pushed the American people through government government issues and government just stupidity. I'm just going to have to spit it out. It's stupidity because you have put into place policies that have really hurt the American people. Look at our fuel. Our fuel is just jumping out of sight. Your oil reserves, United States oil reserves, only has enough for what, 46 days or something like that. It's a very small amount. The government has been so mismanaged that it's now time to start doing something that makes sense. I don't think you should even bring in politicians anymore to talk about the economy or spending or cuts. You need to bring in a group of accountants and sit down and go over that budget line by line and start cutting it out, because we know what to do. Politicians don't. Politicians are going to fight for their programs. Unfortunately, you can no longer fight for them because they're just costing us way, way too much money. Now, if you listen to Jeffries, who's the leader on the Democratic side, he says that it's at civil war stage. Listen, if you want to do something for the American people, stop saying that it's a war between parties. If you want something, come to the table with an honest proposal, and let's see what can be done. But you cannot be acting so stupid. Honestly, it's sometimes when I read the newspaper and I see all of these remarks going on, I'm thinking, do we have high schoolers running this nation, or do we have adults? I honestly think we have high schoolers. If you look at the overall picture of the economy, we're not doing well. If you look, you cannot just look at the jobs report. You just cannot look at the CPI number. Those are just two numbers. This economy encompasses a whole bunch of different things that brings an inflationary number to the American people where they are now barely making it. Now, everybody's out to say, oh, yeah, we're middle class. No, the middle class is gone. It's pretty much wiped out. If the United States government, if the United States Congress does not start showing some action here and start cutting their own costs like Americans have cut our costs at our homes, then you're not really doing justice to this great nation, because it really shows that we can spend, but the American people cannot. The American the United States government can print more money and print more money and make a higher inflation instead of sitting down and saying, what can we do generally for the American people? What can we do that's from the heart, that really shows that we're doing something to make a change in the way government is managed? You've got way too much head count. Okay, just like the tech industry, they had way too much head count. They could have run their companies with much smaller staffs, which they've done. They've cut most of their staff now. Government needs to do the same thing. You're way overstaffed. You have got to. I tell you, to the American people, if you were to come to us with your to us to approve that budget, would say no, no, you're spending too much, and that should be your response too. No, we as a Congress, as a government, is spending too much. So you've got to change your ways. As I read at the very beginning of this vlog, that we have a lot of issues out there, a lot of things on debt and everything else that is weighing heavily on the American people. You, as a nation, you, as a government, have got to start listening to the American people. Enough is enough. It's time to really sit down and hammer out a cost cutting agenda for the next 2 years, because inflation is going to be here for a long time. Too many things have been done that were caused by government to create this inflation that may lead us into a recession. This is Mike Lodge, the business advisor. If you would like to sit down with me confidentially, you can go to www.lodge.co.com. If you have a business question, you can send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. Okay, everybody go out and have a great day. Talk with you soon. Bye bye.